It's time for the Las Vegas Sports Line, brought to you by the Sunset Station with sports director Chuck Esposito. Presented by WagerTalk.com.
All right, here we go. It's the Friday edition of the Las Vegas Sports Line, an increasingly cloudy Friday here in Las Vegas. What's going on? Is my car going to get wet again? I'm Dave Cokin. Ralph Michaels is here. Ari Plattner's producing, and it's Friday. Normally with us on Mondays, but a little vacation time this week. But he's back. Chuck Esposito from Sunset Station Casinos. Hi, Chuck. How are you?
I'm doing well, guys. Good to be back on with you. I was out of town for a little while, but it's good to be back.
Where did you travel to?
Actually, I went to Atlanta. First time I had been there, visiting some friends, and was fortunate enough to go to the College Football Hall of Fame in downtown Atlanta. I highly recommend it. It was a really fun experience, very educational, interactive for the entire family, and was a really cool experience.
Atlanta's a pretty good town, from what I gather. I've never been there except to fly through it a couple of times, and that you don't.
You complained about that, I'm sure.
I think everybody's flown through it a couple of times, it was a lot of fun, guys. I'm not sure if either one of you have been to the College Football Hall of Fame, but it's a really cool experience.
You know, I was there when it was in Notre Dame, and they said it's 10 times better now that they expanded it when it moved to Atlanta a few years back when they opened up the new stadium.
Well, football's always better in SEC country, right?
Oh yeah, there's a number of T-shirts in there that say football Saturdays are better in the South. So it was pretty cool. Very interactive, though. I had an opportunity to try to kick a field goal, run some routes, accuracy for passing, and then kind of did the combine drill as well. Run the 40, the high jump, all virtual. Do some catching drills, participate in some media stuff where you sit on with Reese Davis and Desmond Howard in a kind of superimposed college game day, call some famous college plays. So outside of all the actual Hall of Fame stuff, looking at all the trophies and players in the College Football Hall of Fame and all the videos and other cool stuff, a lot of interactive stuff, guys, that was really, really neat.
What was your simulated 40 time?
Under 6.
The machine was probably off.
Yeah, 5.93 to be exact.
Right.
So I'm sure I wouldn't be on Belichick's radar for the first round.
Well, that's all right. 5.93 would
maybe
that
for
might
an
have been
offensive
faster
lineman.
than Brady's, though. To be honest with you,
What's that? Faster than Brady?
Yeah, I think it was.
I think you might be right. All right, let's talk about what happened. The Raptors are now NBA champions. How'd the betting results go as far as the series in Game 6?
It was a really well-bet series overall. Toronto, again, had the second-best record in the league, and I think the way that they came back against Milwaukee to win those 4 straight, many nights, we found ourselves rooting for the Warriors. I mean, it's kind of the case last night a little bit. You had a lot of money line play on the Raptors last night, a little bit more straight on the Warriors, but overall, it was bet well, and it was a pretty decent NBA Finals for us. I think the biggest question now is, what happens to the Warriors? And I think, heading into the offseason, futures for the NBA are so uncertain. I mean, Kyrie Irving now, you're looking at potentially Brooklyn. What happens with Leonard? What happens with Davis? What happens with Golden State? I mean, Durant can opt in for $31 million, and you look at Thompson, who's an unrestricted free agent. They could have 2 guys that never play a game next year and have over $60 million in salary vested in those 2 guys. I think they do give Clay an offer to keep him. The big question is KD. Does somebody step up knowing that he'll probably miss the majority or the entire season and give him a 5-year max deal? Is it New York? Is it somebody else that does it, knowing that they probably won't have him next year?
Well, and the other thing on that is, not to diminish the extent of Klay Thompson's injury, but ACLs, guys come back with no problem from ACLs now. The rehab process is actually less than it used to be, and they come back stronger than ever. Anything Achilles related, you just don't have that air of certainty, No,
I agree with you, and I think you look at Durant, who's, I believe, been in the league for 10 years, and, in a goofy way, not to, of course the injury is catastrophic. You never want to see that happen. But irregardless of that, I think Thompson, the fact that the way the NBA is structured, if you're not a, first, second, or third team NBA, or you can't get that ultimate max deal. You can still get a max deal based on certain criterias, but the way that it's slotted, it enables them to give Klay Thompson a max deal at a much lower amount than had he been on the first, second, or third all-team. So it really benefits Golden State either way that they can potentially pay him. And if Durant opts out, if he does get a deal from somebody else, it frees up more money for them to ultimately sign some replacement players for those two guys. But either way, I think potentially the landscape in the Western Conference may have changed dramatically. I mean, now if you look at the Lakers, if they get Davis, if Leonard were to go to the Clippers, the Rockets, as good as they've been, I think it changes things pretty dramatically just over a 2.5-hour stretch last night.
Do you think this ends Golden State's dynasty?
I don't think it ends it. I think that as Dave mentioned, I think you could see Thompson potentially coming back next year. I think they're going into a new arena. Yep. You still have Curry. You've got Draymond. You may have some money to spend. They've got some young players. I don't think it ends the dynasty, but it definitely derails it somewhat. And I think you look at how competitive the Western Conference is, it definitely opens the door for more teams. And I really, thought going into the offseason that if the Lakers don't get Davis, I don't think they're any good. I don't think they're a playoff team with LeBron and everybody else. He hasn't made that team better. He needs a partner. And if it's not Davis, I'm not sure who it's going to be. It'll be interesting to see what Leonard ultimately does. If you believe the rumblings out there, he's going to be a Clipper. And the fact they play in the same building, LeBron's going to be taking a backseat to that Clipper team as well if he doesn't get a running mate.
You know what? I think this is good. We've had now for a lot of years an NBA offseason that's kind of interesting, but then you know that once the regular season starts, it's going to be Golden State and somebody from the East playing for the championship, making the regular season just almost meaningless. That's not going to be the case this coming season. I feel strongly going in. I mean, this can change depending on who signs where, but it really looks like we're going to be going into next season with a lot more question marks as to who the two teams that emerge from the rubble are going to be.
But, I think I agree with you. I think that's good.
Yes, so do I.
I think when you look at that league, the fact that, LeBron left and went to Miami, went back to Cleveland, to the Lakers, and then what Golden State had accomplished, everybody was kind of chasing that makeup of, having the three-headed monster to attack. And I'm not sure I agree with you that it wasn't good for the sport. And I think having Toronto win a championship, having the Blues win a championship, I think are good for both sports. I think parity is so much better. You talk about heading into the NFL season, and everyone has the same record right now, and there's a lot of optimism for a lot of teams to potentially make that run. And you think about hockey, where you have almost a 50% turnover year in and year over year to make the postseason. And think about this. 2 years ago, the Vegas Golden Knights were 250-1, made it to the Cup and lost. This year, the Blues, at one point, were 250-1, made it to the Cup and won. I think you need that parity, and I agree with you, Dave. I think the fact that there is some question marks now in the NBA, and with a guy like Zion coming into the draft, a really deep draft class, and a lot of young, good players who potentially could move, I think it's exciting for the NBA.
Yeah, and I love Ja Morant. I can't wait to see him at the next level. I think he's going to be the best player coming out of college this past year, but that's just my opinion. An opinion that's being expressed around town right now, and I can't say I disagree with it, with the win by the St. Louis Blues to take it all. There's a lot of people here in Las Vegas who say, hey, Golden Knights would have taken out the Blues. We'll never know, but the Golden Knights could have taken out the Blues in round 2, and it might be them hoisting the Stanley Cup right now.
You're right, it could be. I mean, we still gave up 4 goals in 5 minutes, and regardless if it was a bad call or not, it happened. I think when you look at the Blues and you look what they did in the playoffs with, the road games they're able to win. Bennington had more road wins than any other goaltender ever in the Stanley Cup playoffs. He had 16 wins in the finals, more than any other rookie goaltender ever. They're a big physical team. They play defense. They check well. They got good good special teams. They roll out 4 lines, and they can goaltend. So you can speculate all you want. The bottom line is the Blues were the best team in the league. I thought going into Game 7, that price of them plus 160 was pretty juicy because I thought they were the better of the two teams. You take out that first game that Boston won 6-1, and you look at how St. Louis dominated as far as shots went in the games that they won. I thought it was a much more even series going into Game 7 than the line indicated, and I think it's great for the sports. I mean, their fans were so excited, and it was great to see that, reminiscent of what our fans were like heading into the finals last year.
You know, I'll add when Cleveland won and we had 1 million people at the parade. I mean, because it was such a big deal and a first-time event when LeBron got him. You know, Chuck, in both the Stanley Cup and the NBA Finals, the home team won Game 1. Taking out Game 1, the road team went 10-1
Isn't that amazing?
in the Stanley Cup and the NBA Finals. How did the house end up in the NHL Finals?
Did well. Overall, I think, future book-wise, although we had the Blues at 250-1, most of the tickets were really small. It wasn't, it was a different dynamic than when Vegas was 250-1. I mean, you talk about a Blues team was bringing up a rookie goaltender, had the worst record in the league. There wasn't any optimism there. They went on that 10-game winning streak. Maybe we didn't, as an industry, adjust quick enough, but it wasn't catastrophic as it could have been had the Golden Knights have won. But you're right. I mean, having the road team win like that, and especially in the NBA, where they historically back the home teams, overall it bode well for sportsbooks across the board.
Chuck Esposito with us, Sunset Station Casinos, Ralph Michaels, Dave Cokin. U.S. Open well underway now. We are into the heart of the second round. A lot of players have finished up. Some players just getting started out at Pebble Beach. Round 1, the players beat the course. Round 2, looks like the course is getting even. Who are the best and worst guys for the house this weekend?
You know, it's funny, but the two worst guys are pretty familiar names. One happens to be Tiger, and one happens to be Phil. So everybody else pretty good shape on. Those are the two guys that definitely generated some action right now. And as you look at the leaderboard, when you look at, Rose and Weiss and Fowler's up there, overall pretty good shape. Fowler did get some action, though. His odds actually did dip, I'd say, of the top, 15 or 20 outside of Woods. He was one of the guys that we did get a lot of tickets on.
Nothing unusual there. Ricky Fowler continues to be a big draw in any golf tournament he's in, especially majors, because he's the guy that people are looking at as the next player to break through and finally win a major. And he's off to a great start in this tournament. He's 5 under through 2 rounds. So Fowler is definitely a serious contender this weekend.
Oh, he absolutely is. I think he's, 2 strokes back of Rose right now, who's 7 under. But you're right. I think he's the guy that everybody's pointing to, that he's going to win that major. And if you could get a decent price on him heading in, he is getting tickets almost on every major event we have posted now.
Chuck, I have an off-the-wall question. And this isn't because Dave just had 2 second-place finishers last week in golf.
Yeah.
Or even looking at NASCAR. Has there ever been thought of a house putting up like a par mutual for golf where the top 3 players play and you could do a trifecta like after the cut on a Saturday or Sunday where second and third get paid as well?
Yeah, absolutely. It's something that we have discussed and looked at. And I think is, everything that we try to do with sports betting, to think outside the box, to be more aggressive, to give guests more options to bet on, I think that is something that you'll see in the not-too-distant future.
And I should correct myself. Ricky Fowler's still on the course today. He's still got 9 holes to play, but he is 5 under 2.
He's 5 under, right.
So is Xander Schauffele, who is my one remaining ticket. Patrick Cantley kind of crapped out. He bogeyed the last hole, and he's going to be right on the cut line, it looks like, so non-factor for Patrick Cantley. The CFL got underway last night. Hamilton wins and covers. How's the volume for Canadian football with so many football-starved bettors here in Las Vegas?
It was okay. It's not going to generate what the other league does, but it was okay. I think, again, there's such a correlation, guys, with events that you can watch and bet on, that anytime there's events on TV, people are going to play on those. So, but it was fair, I'd say, just to start the season. It's fair at this point.
You certainly have to be excited about the new ESPN contract for the CFL, having those games available. I mean, I think that's going to do a huge boost to the volume.
Oh, absolutely. And again, it goes back to what I just said. That there's that big correlation. I mean, we had, odds up on the women's softball College World Series games before they got to Omaha. So many different soccer leagues that are on the board right now. The Aviators, the Lights. Anything that is potentially on or in our backyard that we can generate interest on, you definitely see volume come across our counters, and of course on the mobile app with its convenience.
Here's what I got wrong, Chuck.